Well, hello and welcome back from the break, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our final panel of the day, which is going to be the Join JEP panel. So I have the honor of introducing one of our first panelists, one of our JEP Board of Directors, Isabella Romeu. Isa is JEP's research director, and she's been involved with the organization since its humble beginnings. For the past 3 years, Isabella has donated much of her time to writing op-eds concerning the criminal justice system, as well as other pressing issues, both domestic and worldwide. Upon claiming her role as research director, Isabella has made it her mission, alongside with her Vice Director Elaine Wong, to grow the department as much as possible, with the intention of expanding JEP's impact. Currently, Isabella and Elaine and the department are in the works of writing yet another book in hopes of addressing the injustices within the criminal justice system. I'll pass it off to Audria to introduce Elaine.
I have the pleasure of introducing Elaine Wong, who is the Vice Research Director and is a rising senior at Stuyvesant High School in New York City. In school, she's on the cross-country team, writes for the school newspaper, and is a cabinet member for her school's caucus. Outside of school, she writes for the Dear Asian Youth newsletter and has been involved in various programs such as NYU's HSLI, as well as Columbia's Freedom and Citizenship.
Sorry, I have so much trouble finding the unmute button. And second to lastly, I'm going to introduce Audria, who has been one of our amazing hosts for this summit. Audria Chen is a rising high school senior in New York City and the director of outreach for JEP. She's worked on planning the organization's webinars and newsletters and events just like this. She's played a huge role. She's also interested in the intersection between law and economics and has spent the summer interning at the Queens County Supreme Court and at a corporate law firm. In her free time, she likes to read and crochet. I'll pass it off to Audria.
And last but not least, Isabel is the graphic design director at JEP, as well as a researcher and a social media team member. Outside of JEP, she's a consulting associate at the Institute for Youth and Policy and an intern for a local chapter of the League of Women Voters, creating campaigns to engage younger voters.
I'm so excited. We have such an amazing panel lined up for our final panel of the day. And we're just going to get started with the presentations that you all have prepared. So I think research, you guys had a presentation you wanted to start with, right? So you should have screen sharing capability. If not, just drop the link in the chat and I can do it. But go ahead and screen share when you're ready.
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now since I'm co-host. All right. Sorry for the wait, y'all. Oh my God, this is kind of embarrassing. I've never used Google Slides, so bear with me as I try to navigate this. I think this is, yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so obviously we are presenting the JEP research team, and my name is Isabella Romeu, and Elaine Wong is the other person pinned, and we are JEP's research team's director and vice director. I have been on the research team ever since I've been in JEP, and it's so surreal to see how much it's grown and progressed and all of the impact that our members have made, from writing a bunch of op-eds and current events to a book that was featured in Teen Vogue. It's just insane, and I'm so grateful to be part of this research team and be the director and be able to steer it along with Elaine. So yeah, that's our short intro for the research team, and I'll pass it off to Elaine for our table of contents.
All right, so we're gonna basically go over 4 things. So the first slide is just going to be like so the next slide after this is just going to be what research has accomplished in the past. Isa already has mentioned some of it. And then the second slide after that will be about what we're working on right now to continue like all the work that JEP has already done. And then after that, we'll be going over what the responsibilities of being a member of research would entail. And then finally is just joining, and so all like the respective links and stuff to join the research department and all that.
Thank you, Elaine. So I'll take it over from here. So the research team has been one of the, I would say, most impactful departments in JEP. Since we've started JEP back in 2020, we've come a long way. We've obviously made a lot of mistakes, but Thankfully, we've learned from them, and with everything that we've done and learned, we've been able to publish a book called First Steps into Criminal Justice Activism for Youth. It is available on Amazon for purchase if anyone's interested in buying it for yourself, or to give it to your other friends, or to donate it to our upcoming book drive, which Elaine will get into soon. I will just drop the link in the chat, just let me know. And we also consistently produce articles and social media content. So what we mean by that is, by articles, we mean op-eds. And I have been writing op-eds for JEP since it started. So it's just crazy to me now to be behind the scenes, editing everything and approving the articles and the content ideas for everyone. It's just so amazing to see all the work that goes behind the scenes that a lot of the members don't really familiarize themselves with, just because they're on the other side of things. And Elaine is the one that manages our current events, which are published every week on Instagram. So you should definitely go and follow JEP on Instagram to check those out, and check us out on our website to read all of our op-eds and our toolkits and all of that jazz. And we've also done a period drive. I believe I was a high school senior. I'm not that old, guys. I'm only a second year at U Chicago, so please don't think I'm old. But 2 years ago, we did have a great period drive where we donated a lot of money to I think Her Drive it was, where we had a collection of feminine hygiene products, so pads, tampons, body wash, all things hygiene for women in prison and in underrepresented communities. So we are thinking of doing that again, because it was just such a blast to do, and we all honestly felt really good for ourselves, because as y'all know, JP is mainly consisting of people who identify as women. So it's just nice to help one girl to another. And I'll pass it off to Elaine. Elaine, you're muted.
Oops, sorry guys.
You're
Okay,
good.
now moving on to stuff that we're working on right now. Isa mentioned the book drive. So right now we're in the midst of organizing a book drive with the Queens Public Library. So with this book drive, we will be donating books directly to prisoners in Rikers, which is a prison in New York. And we're working on a second book. So as you've heard, Isa already mentioned our first book, which has been very successful and is on Amazon for purchase. And so we're starting drafting a second book so we can have like a similar impact as the first one. And we also have another long-term initiative, which is the legal dictionary, where we're going to be compiling a bunch of like legal jargon and political jargon that we hear about in the news and in briefs and all that, so that like information about this is more accessible to everyone. And then lastly, we are like, as Isa also already mentioned, we produce op-eds and we produce current events. So we're continuously doing that, and we'll be continuing to do that.
Thanks, Elaine, for going over what we were currently doing. I hope you all find it interesting and keep up with us. So now I'm going to go into what our members do. And we have two amazing task forces that are super active. And I'm so happy to be able to say that we are finally active again after a long period of just being stagnant. So I'm going to dive into op-eds and then current events, and then I'll kind of just talk about what each of them do respectively. So op-eds are usually 3 to 5 pages long. Don't worry, it's double spaced. So before y'all freak out and say, oh my God, you guys are having them write like 1,000-word articles. No, it's double spaced. So just keep that in mind. And we do have it on a monthly cycle. So every month, at the beginning of the month for our first monthly research team meeting, I will ask members to just Slack me their ideas for their op-eds. I usually am not very picky with what people want to write about, because I believe every topic is important. And as long as it's somewhat related to the criminal justice system or it's a very pressing issue, then I will approve it. And again, I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to even be approving topics. Like, I think that's so crazy and surreal to me. And then at the end of the month, after all the rounds of edits have been done, me going back and forth with the members, they are published on the JEP website. This isn't on the presentation, but we are currently working to try and get all of our members published on different websites, just to increase our reach and span and impact and all of that. So now I'm going to be going into current events. They are usually 1 page long because they do go on Instagram, so they have to be a little bit shorter. But that does not mean that they're any less important or impactful than op-eds. And they are on a bi-weekly cycle. So every 2 weeks, our members send Elaine a topic that they want to write about, and Elaine approves it. And if it goes through, then they write about it. And every 2 weeks, it'll be published on JEP's Instagram, which you guys should definitely check out because all of our current events are in our highlights. And you guys can alternate between task forces. You guys aren't strictly you guys aren't restricted, my bad for lack of better words. You guys aren't restricted to one task force. Like if you join JEP and you want to start off with op-eds, but then after 2 months of doing op-eds, you want to switch to current events, that's totally fine. So yeah, I hope you guys are interested in joining JEP's research team because these are honestly super fun to work with and super fun to write.
All right. Final slide. So this is just joining. Issa, could you put the application form in the chat? Because I don't, okay. But yeah. So this is just general stuff, all the benefits of joining. So you can have your research and writing published, which is really great to have your name attached to like all these things that you're writing. And as Issa said, which is really amazing. We're trying to get it published across different platforms. So there's even more reach there. And you also learn a lot more about the criminal justice system as you're doing research and you're writing about these things. And like really importantly, like you get to inform others on how you can advocate, I guess, against injustices. And as we've learned throughout the summit, like being able to inform others and have others involved is so important for driving like JEP's mission and so many other like missions, related related missions. So this is the application form. You do have to apply, and once you apply, you'll get onboarded and you'll be entered into research if that's what you're interested in. Thank you for having us. Hopefully you do join research, and that's it.
Yeah, I'll drop the link right now in the chat. Sorry, I am not that tech savvy, guys. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming to our panel. And before we pass it off to Isabel and Audrea, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to our summit. It means so much. And shout out to Neha and Audra who have put their heart and soul into this summit. Really appreciate it, especially Neha, who's one of the OGs, as well as Marissa. We've been here since the jump, and I just want to shout y'all out because you guys do amazing things. And yeah, I'll just pass it off to you guys. And in the chat, I've linked the application form, and you guys should check us out on Instagram as well. Love you guys.
Thank you, Issa and Elaine, and thank you for the shout out. If you want to scan the QR codes here for donating the Instagram, the TikTok, the website, and also the application form right here, this is the same Google Doc that Audrey and I have sent out like 50 times in the chat, so it's definitely there, and also the direct link is there, so feel free to use that. But now I'm going to pass it off to Isabel to talk a little bit about the graphic design team.
Hi, so I'm Isabel. I'm the director of the graphic design team. And so what the graphic design team does is we basically oversee designing and editing JEP's website. We help design posts for social media, and we also help work on JEP's newsletter. So right now, the graphic design team is planning 2 initiatives. First, we're going to be doing a documentary interviewing youth activists from around the country, and the documentary will focus on the current state of youth activism and why youth activism is so important right now. We're also working on a virtual gallery exhibit for young people across the country to submit their work, and it's going to be focusing on art with themes of social justice and youth activism. So if you have background in graphic design using software like Canva and other graphic design softwares, if you have experience with website design, website editing, and if you have experience with video editing, it would be incredible if you joined the graphic design team and helped make JEP's website, social media look awesome. So the application for the graphic design team is at the same link as the application for the research team because that's just the general JEP application. So if you're interested, just sign up.
Yes, thank you so much, Isabel. I'll actually just leave this up on the screen throughout the panel because I think they'll be kind of helpful links. So if anyone wants to like look over those, I'll leave this up. But now we're going to move into the Q&A portion of the panel. So if anybody has questions for our directors or just questions about JEP in general, feel free to put those in the chat. But I'm going to ask questions to each of you. And oh, really quick before I do so, Audrey, do you want to talk a little bit about outreach first? I completely forgot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure. So Neha and Marissa actually gave me the title of director of outreach like basically a year ago. A couple weeks ago was my 1 year JP anniversary because I found JP through their last summit in person, which was really cool. And during my time as director of outreach, I've kind of worked on making sure that we have our partnerships intact, that we're putting out our newsletter, which just we have the most recent one on the website. I think everyone should check it out, and planning our webinars, which have been really great recently. And I think the main thing that I've seen from outreach is just the breadth of people that you meet. Like I've met so many activists, and I've worked with so many different organizations, and being able to hear from them, being able to email them has been so important. And also the power of a cold email. Like you don't know this person, they don't know you, but you're putting yourself, your name on there, you're putting what you want to do and what you want to achieve with them out there, and you're creating those connections. So the summit was kind of the baby of the BOD meeting once, and then we just turned it into this event. And I'm so glad to be able to have, I don't know, the space to speak with all of you all. And I'll let Neha take it over from there. But outreach is great. Everyone should join it because we make JP really big. Yeah.
Yes, I love that ending. I think it's actually a little funny because I feel like two of the most active departments throughout JP's history have been research and outreach, which is kind of ironic considering that like our social media has definitely had the most posts, but those are yet like the two most active departments. So yes, that's definitely true. Go join any of the departments that you like. And there's also a few others that I just want to shout out. There's the social media team, which works directly on our social media. I think our directors are actually on the call today. So if you're interested, like specifics of the department, want to private message them, feel free to do so or just type your questions. Our policy department works specifically with, as the name suggests, policy. They're starting canvassing campaigns to campaign for specific bills. Right now they're working on mental health bills. So if you're interested in that, please join. What other departments am I missing? That's basically everything. And then the last thing about JPs are chapters. That's the main part. If you're interested in forming a chapter for JP, check out our website. All of that information is there. But now I'm actually going to move into the Q&A portion of the panel. So again, if you have questions for the panelists, drop them in the chat. But I want to start off with something for each of you to answer in terms of your activism journeys. How did you all find JP or just generally get interested in activism work? And you can start off in the order that you each presented.
Okay, I'll go first, based on seniority. So old. Okay, so I actually found JEP through TikTok, and everybody that you see here on this panel, except for Neha, was not on the TikTok, was not present in the organization. So it was just a completely different group of people that I had to interact with. And you know what? Shout out to them. Like, hope they're doing great. But I found JP on TikTok. I don't remember their name, but it was someone dancing, and I was like, "Are you interested in
Marissa.
Marissa?" Yes, it was Marissa. It was Marissa.
And for reference, this is not the same Marissa that has been hosting the
No.
panel today. Different Marissa.
Different Marissa. So Marissa had posted this TikTok on JEP's TikTok, and I was like, "Oh, this looks like super cool." And at the time, I was a junior in high school, so you can see like how far I've come. Now I'm a second year in college, and I applied, and then I got the email that they wanted to interview me. I did the interview, and then I joined. At the time, we had also a public speaking team. We no longer have that; it's been disbanded. But I was in public speaking, and I was in the research team. And as I continued my journey in JEP, I just realized how accessible activism is, because before I didn't really know what I could do. And when I was a junior in high school and applying to JEP, this was like the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, of Trump versus Biden, and just like a bunch of other very important political and socioeconomic issues that were happening at the turn of the decade. So it was just amazing to be able to start getting into activism so young. And I remember I wrote my first op-ed about the death penalty and why it's unethical and why we should abolish it. And I remember just feeling so proud that this organization had given me the chance to express my opinions and be surrounded by such diverse minds, and not only like diverse mindsets, but also diverse experiences, whether that be from gender, race, ethnicity, because I'm in Miami and all that surrounds me is Cubans. And yes, I love my people. I love being Cuban. I love being Hispanic, but it was time for a change and time to start interacting with people of different races, different backgrounds. And I feel like that I've gained so much knowledge, not just in activism, but also just like social and cultural awareness of other people's customs and religion and struggles with racism. And I feel like no other organization or job that I've worked in has given me the opportunity to grow and to learn from others, and also learn about myself and what opinions I hold towards politics or social issues. And I feel like this truly is an organization that was built for that, not just to educate people about the criminal justice system, but also to educate us about one another and the importance of being accepting and open minded, and reminding each other that we are all different, but we all are striving for the same thing, equality, and we all just need to work together. So I feel that I've grown a lot in JEP, starting off like as one of the babies from the organization. I remember we used to have even 20-year-olds in here, and I would just feel so small and like so tiny compared to everyone at, little me, 16 years old. Now I'm almost 20. Oh, that was so gross to say. Oh my God. But yeah, it's just like surreal to me that I've been here so long, and I plan to stay here for much longer, as long as I can, because I truly do enjoy working with you all. No matter how many cycles of people, I feel like JEP just attracts this type of person that you don't find in other organizations or even at school. So again, I'm just grateful to have been part of this activism summit and to be on the panel and to just be in JEP in general. This is a great organization if you want to develop your activism skills, your public speaking skills, writing skills, literally anything. I think I've used a lot of skills that I've learned in JEP at college, and if y'all don't know, U Chicago is pretty cutthroat, so to be able to say that is insane. But yeah, I'll pass it off to whoever else wants to speak. Sorry if I got a little sappy and sentimental, but I love y'all. So yeah.
So wholesome, so sweet. Okay, I'll go next because that's like the order we went in. But as for me, like I'll just start with like my school. So like my school, if like you don't know, like it's very known for its STEM, like for its like excellence in STEM and for its like focus in STEM. And I like before like going into high school, I was very much like I'm gonna be like a doctor. I'm gonna like be an engineer. I'm gonna do something in STEM. Then like as like I ended my like as I finished my sophomore year, I was like, wow, I really dislike STEM. So it's like, oopsies. It's like, what do I do now? And I think, sorry, someone's cooking something, but um, I think like from there, I was kind of just like directionless. I was like, oh, I don't really know what I like anymore. If it's not STEM, what else could I be like interested in? And then like that same like the summer of my sophomore year, like before junior year, like I just went to like this like federal court like week-long program thing for fun. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna expect anything. Like I'll just like go to this thing. And then I went to it, and and it was actually like so like life-changing because I met like a bunch of like lawyers, and I met a bunch of lawyers and law students and judges, and they were all talking about like how they got interested in the law and how they got interested in like advocacy. Like I remember like most notably was this public defender. She went from like private practice to being a public defender because she was seeing like the state of how things were for like people who couldn't afford lawyers. And that was really like what inspired me to get involved with like law and government. And like for a while also like I kind of like try to separate like law and government like from politics, because in my community, like in the Chinese community, in the Asian community, it's very much like not a good thing to be talking about politics and to be involved in politics. And so then it's like there was like this period of time where it's just like, oh, I'm interested in law and government, but not politics, and like not like being very like opinionated on things. But then as time went by, it's really like you realize it's really you can't like be involved with law and government without being involved in politics and being involved with what's going on. And that's how I kind of got interested into JP. So I literally only became like a vice director like this like halfway through this year, and it's been really amazing to be like directly involved in advocacy, because prior to that I was kind of just doing like, oh, like law like programs and all that, like I wasn't directly really doing anything. But JP, like being able to like edit like current events and being able to like host these like book drives and these like and other initiatives, it's really been like a lot more rewarding, like morally and like conscious, like on my moral conscious. And I think it has I think JEP really does offer an opportunity to like enter advocacy, and it's really honestly like a very like easy way, especially for like youth, which is what JEP is for, to enter into the world of advocacy.
Audrey or Isabel, whichever if you want to go.
Sure, I could take it on. So like I said earlier, I joined JP at the in-person event. So I came as a photographer. It was the most random thing because Sasha, who spoke on the last panel, actually invited me to speak at the event, and no, not speak at the event, sorry, to photograph the event. And I was so surprised because this is my first big girl event, and I was like, I don't trust my photography enough to do this, but okay, if you trust me. And I went there and I was hearing these conversations about AI AI justice and all of these different things that I'd never really truly thought about. I was thinking about technology in such in a deeper way, and the conversations that I was having with the members there. I remember I met Neha there. I met Chur, and I met so many people that I didn't even realize I would work with for a whole year after. And after that, I joined both JEP and EJ, but I stuck with JEP. And from here, I joined Outreach in my first month, and then I think you guys were transitioning into the executive director position, so I became director of Outreach. And I think just during that time, I've had a lot of members like leave and do different things, but I've been able to see how I've become more comfortable in the role of of creating these events for people, sending out emails. And I mean, for me, activism has always kind of been a part of what I've been interested in. I've worked on different political campaigns. I've worked in different legal spheres, like in the judiciary, but also in private practice. And I've kind of seen how within my community, I live in Queens, it's super diverse. There's so many different people, but it's just, how do I make this just more than myself? And JP is so national, and we're going worldwide now with the chapters, but just seeing how much you can reach people just by a simple Zoom meeting. Like Neha's all the way in Cali, and you guys are, someone's in Florida. I know people are in Florida. Yeah, just everyone's everywhere, and being able to see that I can kind of talk with you guys in this manner and have a space to express these ideas has been always my draw towards activism. And even if it's at the local level, you're doing something, and for me, I've always just been trying to find a way to explore my interests, but also know that I'm helping something somewhere. And I don't know, that's a bit cheesy, but I'll pass it on to Isabel before I start rambling even more.
So I think I first became interested in criminal justice activism in my ninth grade high school biology class, because we did a whole project learning about DNA testing and how it led to exonerations for people, and we learned about the Innocence Project's work. And I think that for me really showed how important it is to reform the criminal justice system and put an end to wrongful incarceration. And so I think I joined JEP, I think back in April around then. And so I haven't been here for a long time, but so far I think it's an incredible organization. It really prioritizes youth voices and it allows you to express your voice. It doesn't quiet young people, it allows them to speak up even louder. And I think that's so important, especially now when there are a lot of people in the government who are basically trying to take voting rights away from young people, even by changing the voting age and trying to eliminate young people from the political space and cut out our voices. So I think that's why JEP is really important.
I think you all have such unique yet united ways in which you found JEP, and even not even just JEP, but criminal justice reform or just the criminal legal system. It's kind of interesting to see. I mean, I think I relate in a very similar level with Elaine in terms of like I was heading STEM and then I hated STEM. So then I was like, oh, what do I do now? And then I was introduced to JEP through Chor, actually, one of our former research directors, and she had sent me a link to join the summit, our first annual summit, which was the same youth powers youth, I don't remember the full title, but it was like Power to Youth or like Youth Activism Summit, something along those lines. And I remember joining that summit, and there was a workshop specifically that I had seen by I can't remember the name, but it was like a legal workshop where we were working through domestic violence cases. And I remember hearing after that some of our directors speak about the workshop and how kind of it was formed and everything like that. And I was like, wow, this is an organization where they want to hear your opinion, but they also want to educate you further and teach you more about the things that you're interested in. And it felt like I was almost on the same playing field as other people there, and I didn't feel like I was being talked down to. And I think that's something very valuable that Isa, you also mentioned with JP, was kind of like a community beyond those that are just interested in criminal justice, but you'll find people that are interested in the same kind of things as you that will learn with you and that they're going to educate themselves along with others. And I think that's something very powerful about JP's community is we're not just a criminal justice reform organization, but we're also a community of like-minded individuals that want change in a lot of different ways, and we're united for that. So I think that's something really important. And I know, Marissa, you're not officially on the panel, but do you want to share maybe how you found
Yeah.
JP and how you got interested?
Oh my God. Of course, yes. So I was always interested in criminal justice. So my family's always been super big on giving back, right? And I used to go to temples and mosques and different like places to give out food. And I met this one guy, and he was he was telling me about his life story. I didn't even ask, but he was just talking to me, telling me about his life story and how he was incarcerated when he was 17. And he was there because of the marijuana use. I think it was like near him, or he used it or something along those lines. And at that time in New Jersey, it wasn't legal. So he talked to me about like he was in jail for almost 7 to 10 years. And when he got out, he had no family. He had no one. He had no sort of support system. And like that was just really shocking to me. The government kind of just like threw him out back into society and said, "Hey, figure it out on your own." And like how are you supposed to do that when you're like in a prison when you're a kid, and when you come out you're expected to just come back into society and figure it out on your own? That's impossible, especially with no sort of guidance. And I always was interested in criminal justice since then, but I didn't really get involved in any youth-led organizations until my end of my ninth grade. And then I found JEP. I was like searching, I really want to get involved. Found JEP, I joined, and Irene was our executive director at that time. And we had like a whole board. And then I grew as outreach director with Neha, and we were both outreach directors and having webinars and stuff like that. And then later on we became executive directors, and it's been nothing but amazing, growing and seeing all the people, even like our former executive directors, not executive, but like our former board members, seeing them come and go and seeing the impact they made on JP to help it grow, like, or even seeing our new members and seeing the new ideas that they have. Like without Audra, we wouldn't have this amazing summit with this amazing lineup of speakers. Like when you think about it, it's just like amazing, and seeing all the passionate young minds, and hopefully we're going to grow even more and meet even more amazing people. But that's a little bit about how I started. I'm still kind of interested in STEM, I'm not going to lie. I'm actually packing up right now for college, but I am a STEM major, but I'm still really interested in criminal justice. I love the interdisciplinary like kind of style. Even JP has like shown with like the whole event we had last summer, the artificial intelligence one with the criminal justice intersection. It's super interesting. I mean, but that's a little bit about like how I got involved, but yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I think we could all probably go on this subject for a very long time, just because there is a little short time. I do want to move on just so we can get a few other questions. And once again for the chat, obviously all of us on the panel know each other, so please drop your questions that you're interested in hearing, because we also want to know what you want to hear. But in the meantime, I have another one for everyone. And this is kind of something we've asked all of our Gen Z panelists, and I'm curious about y'all's perspectives. What do you think is the hardest part about being a Gen Z in an activist space that's usually dominated by adults? I mean, most of the time, the criminal legal system, like the legal dictionary initiative that Elaine mentioned, it's pretty complex and it's hard to understand. So, how do you find parsing through that is easiest as a Gen Z? And again, any order you want to jump in on this.
I think I can kind of just throw this out here. So every time I meet with someone for an outreach meeting, I wait to turn on my camera until they do. And when I do, they're like, oh, I expected you to be much older, because the way that JP sends out emails, it looks very professional. We have inline photos, we have this very nice email signature. And I think it kind of forms you to know how to speak in a professional manner, like from outreach. That level of professionalism is needed if you want to get your foot in the door with some of these organizations. And learning how to do that at a young age has been a bit weird, but I'm just also trying to instill that into our own members too when they write their email templates, trying to teach them like, this is how you do it, and this is how we'll grow by trying to almost present ourselves as more mature. And it's not really a matter of being like, oh, mature, immature. I don't think that's really a thing we need to like think about too much, but it's just speaking with so many people that are years ahead of you in activism, but also knowing you have an important voice and knowing that your voice is not any lesser than the voices that have already been established is super important. And I feel like I'm going off the question, but this is just like when you're working with adults, you have to present yourself in some way, like wearing a button up or scheduling emails with like the proper signatures and all that. Very important.
For me, navigating criminal justice as a Gen Zer, I would say it has gotten easier now that I'm in college, and my vocabulary and just way of speaking and the diction and lexicon that I use when I speak has obviously developed much more, and I would say at an exponential rate now that I've entered college. So all of you high schoolers, just get ready to suffer in college. Don't mean to be don't mean to rain on your parade, but it's kind of depressing now that you're not like a baby anymore. But I feel like before that, when I was in high school, I found it extremely difficult to try and communicate with people who were perhaps twice my age or even just a couple years older, finishing up college. I would feel like they would look down on me, but then be very surprised when I would talk about the things I would talk about and how passionate I was about Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, SOS Cuba, and a lot of other political, socioeconomic issues. And it just felt like from the jump, they were already underestimating the power of the youth and not really considering the impact that youth voices have. I mean, both the Democrats and Republicans in the 2020 election were not expecting Gen Zers to show up to vote, and we showed up to vote, whether that was red or blue. We were the highest turnout demographic. So I feel like millennials and baby boomers and Gen X just underestimating the power of youthful minds is just ludicrous and just dumb, because there's so many ways to learn about criminal justice and what is going on with the world now that we live in a digitally warped society. So I feel like everything now is super accessible to learn about from a young age, and you can formulate your own opinions. I obviously don't really care what you think as long as it's, within line of ethics and morals. But there's just so many different ways to learn about whatever you want to learn about that it honestly diminishes their argument that, oh, Gen Z, like they don't really know what they're talking about. But we do. We do our research, we listen to the news, we gather our own sources, and from there determine what we want to think about the world and what we want to think about X, Y, and Z. So I feel like now that I've grown older and been with JEP and other organizations that have similar missions and similar like outlooks and views, I feel like now I'm confident in having a conversation with someone who's a little bit older than me, to talk about with them about criminal justice and activism and now that we are all in JP, we will have a great track record to flex on them and say, like, hey, I've done this, this, and this. What have you done? Oh, you've done nothing. Exactly. So whenever you feel like an older person is just like trying to rain on your parade and trying to make you feel dumb, just tell them that you work in an organization who was in Teen Vogue. And that'll shut them up. It always works. So I'll pass it on to whoever else wants. I'm going to leave it on that sweet note.
I'll go next. Oh yeah, okay. So I think like for me personally, like I feel like one of the biggest like barriers to like getting involved with this sort of stuff is like being that stereotypical like young teenager who doesn't know what they're talking about, and they're like, you know, like the blue-haired liberals and like the what is it, like those sort of like stereotypes. And it's very much like, I mean, no, I'm like I was basically like one of those stereotypes like freshman year. I was like, I would read, like I would just like see like those infographics, and then like 5 minutes later I see someone like post a thing about how the infographic was wrong, and I'm like, oopsies, like maybe I should have like done more research on like what I reposted. And I think like I think one of like I think with how accessible like it is for like people in Gen Z to be involved in advocacy and like current events, it like comes with like another barrier of like actually like researching and actually like knowing what you're talking about and knowing like what the information that you're looking at is like is correct. And I think I think that is part of the reason why I like joined research, because like, you know, being able to do your own research and to dig and look for and see things in like a partisan way, even though like you might not like agree with the other side, just like getting the whole picture is really like what I think is like the most important for being involved in like politics and stuff at like this age. Because I think like when you get older, it's like you sort of like gain experience and all of that, but like when you're like really young, it's like really hard to get that experience and just like actually know everything about everything that's going on, like especially like when you're in school and you're like grinding away at tests and like assignments and all of that. So I think one of the ways like I combated that was just like, you know, like actually look at what I'm reposting and like, you know, write like doing writing, because I write for newspapers and I I write for other, like I just like write a lot. And I think like when you write, it kind of forces you to like actually like research what you're looking at, because you can't like write something and have it be like all like wrong and have it all be like not well researched. So I think that is like one of the ways like um that issue can be like sort of dealt with for people in Gen Z.
I love those ideas and I love those solutions. And I think that's a huge part of being young too, is like learning from your mistakes. This is something I think we talked about 2 panels ago with Pages for Progress, Jada Yang, Matthew Cassie, and Mia, was sort of the idea that like being a youth in such adult dominated spaces, oftentimes we will make mistakes, and just kind of accepting that and then learning from that, I feel like is such an advantage that adults tend to overlook, that we often take advantage of. But we are sort of running out of time, so I want to end off with kind of a two-parter question, and it's what is your favorite project or your favorite thing you've done in JP, and or what are some resources that you love to read, look at, newspapers, podcasts, anything like that. So I'll pass it off to whoever wants to answer.
Okay. Oh, this is so hard, but I think that my favorite thing that I've done in JP was write and edit the our very first book. At the time, Irene was our executive director, and before I go on a ramble, because y'all know I love rambling, Irene um she let me edit a lot of the book before she sent it off to the editors, and I just felt like so powerful. I felt so important. Like I just felt so cool. I was like, oh my God, like, and I got to read through everyone's like contributions, and I was like, I never thought about things this way. I never would have thought to look at this statistic and interpret it this way. So I was learning a lot from my fellow members, and it wasn't just the research team working on this book. It was like JP as a collective whole, and it was just so interesting to see how certain people write about certain issues and how someone from the graphic design team interpreted statistics and pictures and photographs of like a crime scene versus how someone from the research department was more like quantitative about things rather than qualitative. Actually, wait, is that right? That's right. Yeah. Sorry, not a STEM girl. I'm an English major. Sorry, guys. But yeah, that was definitely my favorite thing that JP has done, and just being able to see all of our names in the book and have credit given to us was just so rewarding. And seeing us go on Teen Vogue, I remember it was like October of my senior year, and I saw that in my English class, and I was like, oh my God. I was just like, I was so happy for all of us. I feel like we all worked super, super hard. And as for resources that I like consulting, honestly, my sister. My sister is a paralegal at one of the top law firms in New York, and she is surrounded by a lot of top lawyers from amazing law schools. And I learned so much from her, and I feel like she's also done some work for JP. She's helped us out a couple of times, so I feel like if anyone wants to ever talk to my sister or have like a webinar with her, I feel like she'd totally be down. She's great. But yeah, she's my number one resource. I feel like I always have to verify everything I see with her because she's just like so knowledgeable about the law and criminal justice, and she's so passionate about helping people with their respective issues, whether that be with race, religion, or culture, ethnicity. So, yeah, definitely my sister is the most viable and feasible resource for me to reach out to.
I think for me, my favorite event is probably this one just because I remember saying it in BOD and then being like, I really hope this works out, but this also, I'm not sure if it will. And then we just started going. Like I remember sending emails while I was at work and we met during like Neha and I had a small meeting. I was at Chipotle. I was like, yeah, we're putting this together. It's working. And seeing it come together has been so insane, and seeing emails come back to me, just like knowing that, I don't know, I talk about emails a lot just because I think it's so cool when people actually respond, but this event is definitely my favorite thing I've ever done with JEP. I love our webinars, but this is like a massive webinar, so I think that just counts. um for resources, I mean, I just bought my own subscription to the New York Times because it's $1 now per week, so feeling very big, feeling very financially, I don't know, free, independent. I think just having news sources on my phone all the time, it's been really helpful. AP, of course, because it's not as like leaning towards any side, and it's usually just about the news. For podcasts, I'm not really a podcast person, but I do listen to one. It's called The Odd Lots. It's an economics one. It's a bit weird, but it keeps me up to date. I use it on my walks, but otherwise I think the best resource is JP's website or the Instagram. So I will pass it off to anyone else.
Okay. What was the first question? Oh, yeah, like favorite thing. So honestly, right now, my favorite thing that like we're working on is the book drive because I feel like so like directly like involved with this and like picking up like help picking up the books and all that and like organizing it. And I feel like it's just like I've never done something so like direct before. So it feels like I'm actually like, like helping out and like causing some change and like and all of that. In terms of like resources, this is like it's like a little strange, but like the political like every week they post those like political cartoons and then like they're so like obviously they don't like give a lot of information, but I feel like it like inspires me to like look up stuff because it's like what is going on in this picture. Like I remember there's this one picture with like it was about the upcoming election with Trump and Biden, and then they're getting wheeled out in wheelchairs and they're like, oh, time ready to race. I was like, what in the world? I was like it's like obviously like it's because like they're both old, but like I feel like it made me like look up things and like catch up on stuff like that wasn't like really like as caught up on. And I think that is my favorite resource.
I think those are some great answers. Um, and unfortunately, we are kind of reaching the end of our entire summit. Actually, I was about to say of this panel, but no, it's actually all done. We've been in a Zoom call for like 10 hours in total. It's a lot of time, but or no, like 8. But I just want to say thank you to all of the JEP team, all of the directors on this call, all of those not here. Not only just for this panel, but for all of your hard work for the last 3 years. This summit would not be possible without y'all, and all of the events that we've hosted would not be possible without everyone here. So thank you so much. Huge shout out especially to Audria for all of the like late nights for the last entire week that you have been putting to work on this.
Thank you for helping me with it. This would not be anything if you actually didn't motivate me to work on this.
And you and everyone else obviously as well. I really encourage everyone to join this amazing team, everyone on this call. All of these resources are right here to check out. Let me pull up the Canva. I have to oh wait, you can still use them all. Never mind. But yes, definitely check out JEP. Even if you don't want to join, our op-eds, wow, I cannot speak, are posted like every month. They're all on the website. They're like public free use. You don't have to subscribe or anything. So read those. They're really informative, and like I ended up posting a lot of them every month and I read them. They're very interesting and they're very well written. They're also very nonpartisan and all of the sources are listed. So great educational resource as well. All of the resources that speakers mentioned, not just on this panel, but everyone, will be shared afterwards. We'll send y'all an email. It'll also be in our newsletter and on the Slack. So check that out and join JEP. But other than that, thank you so much, everyone, speakers, panelists, for joining. It was a really incredible summit, and I'm so glad that y'all made it. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Lots of love. Stay healthy, drink water, and thank you for joining our summit. It means so much.
Really
Yes,
does.
thank you everyone. And big shout out to Audria and Neha.
Big shout out to Audrey and Neha, for real.
Bye, y'all.